Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Merrifield's Gardening Advisor. David and I are so glad you could spend a little part of your Saturday with us. We've got a great show today because it's August, and even though it's August, there's still a lot going on in the garden.
There's a lot of times we think of August as sort of the dog days of summer, hot and humid and everything, but really it can be a beautiful time in the garden. And the weather's been really cooperative for us this year. So we can go out and enjoy it.
And we've had some rain.
Yeah, exactly.
We've had rain this year.
Yeah, I was saying my garden last night really needed to be watered, but it's like I've only watered once this year, and I'm determined I'm going to make it without watering, but I don't know. We'll see how things look when I get home tonight.
So what are we doing today?
We are talking about the August garden. There's a lot of stuff that's in bloom right now because where I look as you go into late summer, you know, we're still in summertime, but you can tell the days are getting shorter, and so the fall season's not that far ahead. And a lot of the plants that have been growing through the heat of summer. We're going to talk about a lot of the perennials and annuals and tropical plants and even trees and shrubs. There's a lot of plants like this that have been thriving in the heat and the warmth of summer, waiting for this opportunity to bloom and flower. And then, of course, also taking advantage of this are the butterflies and the hummingbirds and the bees and all the pollinators on the same cycle. They're feeding off of the flowers. They're kind of getting stored up and ready for the winter that they know is coming down the road. So it's just a neat time of the year. We're going to look at all those different aspects of the garden.
Speaking of fall coming, the other day, you know, I turn on the TV and there's football. Okay, so we know fall is on its way.
Yeah, we all have our different signals and cues, right?
Well, we've got a lot going on today, so we're not going to be taking phone calls today. But as I said, we do have lots and lots to talk about today. Before we get to that, just a couple of quick announcements. We're very excited, and this has been a couple of weeks happening now, but we are now on DirecTV. News Channel 8 is now on DirecTV, so if you have any friends and neighbors that are not able to watch us on TV, and they've got DirecTV, please let them know that we're there. Of course, you can always see episodes usually a couple days after, you know, like by Tuesday, Wednesday. Most times on Saturday, our show that's aired today, you should be able to see on our website, merrifieldgardencenter.com. So that's, you know, you have no excuse not to watch.
Exactly, it's great. I've had so many customers that come in and said, oh, they moved and they switched to the DirecTV or something, and now that is available to them. But you have to help us get the word out on that.
That's right, that's right. Another exciting thing is that our seminars are going to be starting up about the first week of
early September.
Early September, I think the 7th or whatever that. I guess that would be the second Saturday. I think the first is a Saturday this year.
I know, but it's on the way.
It's
coming soon.
Early September. So we're getting those seminars finalized up, and we will be sending them out to everyone on our mailing list. So if you'd like to get one of these in the mail, which not only list all the seminars, kind of things that are going on at Merrifield Garden Center, and some great coupons in there too. If you're not on our mailing list, you still got time to sign up. You can come in the stores. You can go on our website. If you go on the website, it's you go on and you look on the Join Our Community, and you can just follow the directions from there. But you can sign up for our e-newsletter. You can sign up for our regular mailing. You never know what to call that anymore. It's not snail mail. It's just, you know.
I just call it the postal
service mail. Okay. We've got Dog Club. There's all different kinds of things you could do, and the website is great. So take advantage of that. Also, when you come in to register, an easy way is to register for our drawings, where we give away tickets to Nationals games and events at the Verizon Center. So that's a great way to do it too.
That's exactly where I send people. I said, go back and put your name in the bucket. Maybe you'll win something in the process.
That's right. And of course, while you're there, we've got lots of beautiful things coming in. Our tent sale is still going on, so lots going on at Merrifield Garden Center. So that's all I have.
All right. Well, let's get started. I'm going to kind of begin with some pictures here.
Great.
Kind of talk about the August garden. And basically, set the stage where if we have our first picture coming up. Now, just the other night, I happened to have one of my neighbors walking by, and he was just looking at my own little townhouse garden and commenting that there's always stuff in bloom there.
That's right. Can we see the first picture?
And I was saying that, you know, that's really not by coincidence, that's by design. And I was telling him, I appreciate you, thank you for noticing, but I want you to come by, you know, every month of the year. I said, and you'll find something happening out there.
Absolutely.
And one of the ways that we achieve that, now this is out of American University, this is not my garden, but I thought this is a good example of where you can take perennials trees, shrubs, annuals, even tropicals, and I like to mix as many different types of plants as we can into a landscape. And too often, I think what happens, you might just rely on azaleas or dogwoods, which are beautiful in their own right, but then that's kind of, by May, that's over and done with.
Right.
So to get this beautiful looking summer composition, you want to mix up with the diversity of plants, and we'll be looking at all these things. So again, I often use American University as good examples. Another picture shows where they've used a lot of tropical plants, because our summer really is tropical.
So in the next picture?
Yeah, the next picture shows a good example of this, because you think about the heat that we go through.
It's not us.
Yeah,
there we go.
But especially like this year, the amount of rainfall we've had, and when it's hot and it's humid and it's moist, our summertime is tropical.
Right.
And so I'm more and more on board with this idea too. Of course, I've had people I know, like Joe Simone has been on with us, and he's been promoting this for a long time. Bart Windsor, some of these guys really turned me onto it, and they're on to something. Put this out, instead of fighting the heat of summer, these plants flourish in it. So now as we go into August, they're in their full glory. It's just absolutely beautiful that's out there. Another nice way to add sort of color and interest to the summer garden. And like I say, just as everything else is starting to really take off, of course, I want to talk a bit about the pollinators today, and things like the butterflies that are out and so active now, because again, these are the insects, their activity is pretty much driven by temperature, and also so now that the summers have warmed up and some of those early generations have developed, they're out in abundance right now. Like this swallowtail, it's feeding off of a tropical species of milkweed there, but again, giving those bright colors that are in there. The bees are out pollinating. So we've got the bumblebee there, and then also we're going to talk a little bit about hummingbirds. So all this is going on in the garden right now.
I think we've got a picture of a hummingbird coming up next here.
Yeah, this picture is Romero, who works out in our perennial section, happened to be in the right place at the right time to capture that picture.
Great.
Feeding on the nectar of the crocosmia, so that was pretty phenomenal. And then I got to show one more picture. Okay, I'm going to squeeze this in, but this is such a beautiful, beautiful flower arrangement. I don't want to skip over it. This is a flower arrangement that Tina made for us at our Fair Oaks store. To me, it really captures the beauty of the late summer. There were the sunflowers and the lilies and the roses all combined. I would have never put those plants or colors together. I'm no floral designer, but this is one I could really appreciate. I thought she did just such a beautiful job. I want to show that off. And again, remind everybody, we can do custom floral arrangements. So whether she's been doing quite a few weddings. A lot of people get married out there. They were doing
weddings yesterday. Yeah, good for them.
Yeah. Now this was for a restaurant, so it was a big arrangement. But really, whatever the occasion, contact us. We can do some really amazing things in the cut flower arrangements as well.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break and come back with more August happenings. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everybody. We've got lots to talk about today, and again, we're not taking phone calls because we've got a lot to put in. There are beautiful things in bloom right now.
Lots of stuff. Again, people don't take full advantage, I think, of this season that's out there. So I try and give you some ideas that you can incorporate, whether it's last minute planting now or planting ahead for the next year.
Right.
But I want to begin talking a little bit about woody plants. Right. Kind of broke this down. We'll talk about some woody plants, some perennials, and so on through there. So, of course, when we're talking about woody plants and summer color, we have to talk about crepe myrtles.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that because we've talked about them and people are familiar with it. But crepe myrtles are really the quintessential plant of summer.
So gorgeous in the summer.
And again, we've got pictures that kind of show you how crepe myrtles will provide that color. Now again, this is out of Green Spring Gardens Park. It's Fairfax County Park Authority. It's their horticultural center. I always like to give recognition to the public gardens and parks because
they are so important.
I take full advantage of it, and I think you get lots of neat ideas, you know, on how you can enhance your own landscape. Even though you might say, wow, this is a pretty big property, but even in a small property, you can apply that to, I mean, big property, you can take the concepts and apply it to a small property. But one of the things I'd like here, of course, again, is that we do have the trees, the shrubs, you know, and all the different elements, even the architectural elements of that little gazebo that's in there. But again, it's that crepe myrtle in the front there, and the crepe myrtles, they provide the color in summertime. There's so many different varieties, shapes. They're out there. This has the beautiful peeling bark that's on there. I'm not exactly sure which variety this is. They didn't have that labeled, but again, I'm thinking it could be one like Wichita or something that has both the color in the bark as well as in the foliage, and of course they give you some color also in the fall. So you have crepe myrtle, it's sort of in that upright tree form. There's also crepe myrtles that can be small, dense shrubs that we can see in the next example. This is a variety, it's called Pocomoke. Again, these were developed at the National Arboretum, so they do quite well in our area and our climate. You can see how dense this is. I don't think this is being sheared. I think this is just pretty much the natural shape. It maintains that nice, dense, compact form. You're looking at, you know, maybe 4 foot by 4 foot with the little pink blossoms on there. And of course, these blossoms, you know, they open and fade, open and fade, and open and fade. Gives you a big sequence of flowering that's in there. And if you look behind that, it's the white flowers, and there's a variety that's called Natchez, and we'll get a little closer look at that. So this is Natchez, again in full bloom, that white one. This is an example of what you can do in a townhouse garden. They have displays where they set up some small garden areas. So again, we're talking about how you can put this plant to use where it's serving as a small tree in a townhouse garden setting.
What I love about crepe myrtle is, as you've shown right there, there are so many different ways to use them. The looks are so different. You've got the tree, you've got the shrub, you've got the bushy look.
And what I love about them is they're tough, they're durable, and everybody's happy with them.
That they are.
Yeah. Because again, everybody knows I work at the clinic, and I like things that perform exactly and don't give as much trouble. Another tough, durable, summer blooming shrub that you can rely on is the Hydrangea paniculata. The paniculata, again, it's a shrub form that's in there. They bloom right now. They're kind of July, August is peak time. They'll continue into September. You can see it there using the composition out at Meadowlark Gardens. And now I've got a close-up of the flower on this. Because this is such a hardy, vigorous, heat and drought tolerant shrub, a lot of developments going on with different varieties that are out there. This is the traditional flower style. Again, I don't know the exact variety that's in there, but I think it might be one that's called Unique, which is grown specifically for those big panicles that are on there. But there's more and more varieties coming out with these all the time. So a couple of other close-ups. This one that you're looking at right now coming up here is a variety that's called Great Star. This is the first time I've seen it, was this year, and those florets are about 2 or 3 times the size that they are on typical ones, just to show you the variation that's out there.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Now these tend to be big, rangy shrubs. When I say rangy, you know, we're talking about they'll get 6 feet tall, so they need a little space to grow. This next one is a variety that's really dominating the landscape right now, called Limelight, because it is covered with these dense, small flowers that start out white, kind of fade to that chartreusey green, and again, just give you lots of color for an extended period through late summer.
Looks like a forest of hydrangea.
It really does, and they will bloom that densely. Now, I brought a couple other of these Hydrangea paniculatas into the set just to sort of illustrate, again, that we constantly are having new varieties come out. So what you're looking at, the sort of that light green one that you see in the foreground, is one that's called Bobo, which is a compact one that's going to stay at about 4 foot by 4 foot. And then just behind it, you can see one that's called Pinky Winky, because those white florets gradually fade to a pink, and then the new ones, of course, they're opening up to a white, so you kind of see it go from white to pink.
So many different choices, so many different varieties. Oh,
you know, and we just don't have time to give them all justice, but come out to the garden center and check them all out for yourself. Now, another great summer blooming shrub that's flowering for us right now is one that's called Vitex. We can go back to our pictures. Vitex is that purple color in the background. Again, here I thought this was sort of a nice composition, with the Hacanicola, that chartreuse-colored grass under there, and goat's beard, and so you've got nice color combinations there. To me, this Vitex can act almost like a rose of, almost like a crepe myrtle in the landscape if you limb it up and prune it up and kind of make it into that sort of small tree look.
Okay.
Others,
Got a couple more?
Yep, because I'm going to go through these quickly because there's so many. We'll look at the Rose of Sharon. This is sort of the traditional one, which again, that beautiful flower. It is a type of hibiscus, but this is very tough, very durable. It thrives in the heat, thrives in the sunlight, and they tend to go sort of this pink, white, or there's some that get almost to a true blue coloration in there. But I want you to pay close attention to that flower form, because we're going to look in our next picture where you see it's the same flower form, but this is what's called a hardy hibiscus. I just had to put this in because the bud's unfurling. It's not fully open.
Beautiful.
But it will fully open and expand to that same hibiscus form. But the flowers can be 6, 8 inches, 10 inches across. They get huge. And again, then this is a herbaceous plant. It's winter hardy, but this one dies back to the ground. So the first one we looked at was a shrub. The second one is a perennial. The third one we're going to take a look at is a tropical hibiscus. But you see the similarity in that flower form, so they're all hibiscus, but again, just to let you know, you can get shrubs, perennials, you can get tropicals that are in there. And then our finishing picture for this segment, we're taking all these elements, so we're putting them together, and you can see there's Vitex in the background, you've got the hydrangea, the hibiscus in front of it. So you mix these plants together and you can just add lots of color and excitement to your garden, even in late summer, when you might want to be hiding. Your garden could be really out there looking fabulous.
You could be hiding in your garden.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to be hiding in the air conditioning.
That's
You
right.
can step out and enjoy all that beauty of summer.
Absolutely. Okay, when we come back, we're going to talk about some perennials. So stay tuned. We're back, and we're talking this segment about perennials.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and just jump right into their pictures, because I know I'm running a little bit over on my time, which I always tend to do.
That's okay.
Yeah, so we're going to start with a couple pictures from out at the garden center. And of course, everybody loves daylilies. Now, daylilies really hit their peak in July. So a picture like this was taken last month. But you know what? There's a lot of repeat blooming varieties, so we can continue to keep the color going. But I just want to give you an idea of the tremendous selection that's out there. Because they're pretty easy to hybridize, so they're always hybridizing and developing new colors and varieties. And like I say, and then now we get extended bloom times out of them.
That's wonderful.
So then we'll keep going here. This is another little close-up of the flowers that's on there, one of the newer varieties.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Showing that,
look at that.
Dual coloration that's in there, the ruffled edges, and again, the repeat flowering qualities. But what I really want to talk about is, we put these plants out there because we love them. We enjoy the color and the beauty that they add to our gardens, but really, they're not necessarily there for our well-being.
That's true. You sure it's not?
Well, they do serve a larger purpose for the plant. And what happens, we'll keep going through our pictures, is not just us that enjoys them, but of course, it's all the insects that are out there.
That's for sure.
If you think about life as a plant, and you're thinking, reproduction, basically, to get their pollen transferred, of course, they produce these beautiful flowers, really to attract the pollinators and the insects into it. So as much as we enjoy it, so do the insects, but of course, then we get a lot of enjoyment out of that aspect of our gardens as well. So who doesn't like butterflies?
I hope there's nobody that doesn't.
Yeah, nobody. You gotta love butterflies and everything, because they add their own sense of beauty and wonder to the garden. So they're coming there. Of course, the butterflies are drawn in for the nectar that's there, and they inadvertently serve as pollinators for the plants. But what we love about butterflies is not just the beauty of them, but the excitement of this. They go through what's called a complete metamorphosis. We'll talk a little bit about their life cycle. So they begin life as an egg. This is a rather large egg for a butterfly, but you can see they're laid there on the underside, in this case of a Japanese maple. That egg hatches out and emerges as a larvae. the larvae is what we all know as the caterpillars, and we're just going through life cycle here. So this is the caterpillar. This happens to be of a Cecropia moth, and sometimes these caterpillars, they're just as interesting and dramatic in their colors and patterns and biology as the adult butterflies are. This one happens to be feeding specifically, it tends to feed on willows, that's what it is there, but it will feed primarily on different trees like willows and maples and poplars, and it spends its time chowing down and feeding on the plant, and then it goes into its pupal stage. As a pupa, or what we'll talk about as a cocoon in the case of a moth, or a chrysalis in the case of a butterfly, that's where they undergo this unbelievable transformation, where they go from being that larval stage where they emerge out as an adult, and then of course that adult is a butterfly or moth that we all love to see, and this one again is the adult Cecropia moth that we followed through the whole life cycle. Interestingly enough, there are actually more species of moths than there are butterflies.
Really?
There are. They don't get the recognition or the attention because, of course, they're flying at the nighttime while we're indoors asleep.
Right.
So they are more abundant in the environment than the butterflies are, but we just don't pay as much attention because, like I said, we're not out there to see them at night.
It always fascinates me, the markings on all these, and they're also intricate and so different.
Oh, it is. Isn't that just phenomenal?
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. Makes you want to get out there and, with your headlights on or something, see what's going on in the dark out there. But like I say, if we want to have beautiful butterflies and moths, we've got to have beautiful flowers to attract and feed them. So we'll just keep going through the pictures here. The tiger swallowtail, that's our state butterfly. This is one of the most common butterflies. You'll see them out there now just going crazy. Of course, the butterfly bush is a phenomenal plant in the landscape with delightful fragrance that's out there, big range of colors. Again, they tend to be quite large, but we've got newer varieties that are bushy and compact. They're going to need at least half a day or 6 hours of sun out there to get good flowering out of them. If you deadhead them, and we do recommend you deadhead them by cutting the spent blooms off, they continue to just flower and flower through repeat blooming. But of course, if you want to have the swallowtail butterflies, that means you're also going to need to have swallowtail caterpillars. So that's the butterfly. Now let's look what the caterpillar looks like. So the caterpillar is frequently called a parsley worm. It feeds specifically on plants that are in the carrot family. So you'll see them out there feeding on dill, fennel, parsley, carrots. But a lot of times you just need to accept that and be willing to have the plants that are out there. So a lot of what I'm trying to do is get you to realize that when you start to see caterpillars in the landscape, when you see them feeding on your garden, don't go the instinctual kill them. Sometimes I put fennel in my garden specifically to attract them. So that's the tiger swallowtail. We look at the spicebush swallowtail. We look at the adult. And again, the larvae of this feeds specifically on Lindera benzoin, one of our native shrubs that's out there. So a lot of times that's why we need to protect our habitat and environment, because we want these butterflies, we've got to have food for their larvae as well. We can look at the pipevine swallowtail. And again, that's a beautiful butterfly feeding on the butterfly bush, but the larvae of this feed specifically on pipevine, which is rarely found in around this area, so we don't get to see this butterfly that often. So it's important that we learn to know what the larvae need to feed on as well, and include those plants in our gardens so we have both for the caterpillars as well as the adults.
Great. Okay, well, we've got to take another break, so we'll be right back in a couple of minutes, so hope you stay tuned. During our last segment, we were talking about some of the beautiful butterflies and moths, the pollinators, and so we've got some more to share.
We sure do, because it's both the beautiful flowers and the pollinators that they attract. So yeah, butterflies. Let's just go back to our pictures.
Okay.
Oh, this is one that's probably
love this picture.
Favorite of everybody's. Yeah, that monarch butterfly. And it's a beautiful butterfly, but it also has just such interesting, fascinating biology behind it. I think that's one of the reasons that we're all so intrigued with it. You think about a butterfly that's going to migrate to Mexico, you know, and overwinter.
That
you know,
always amazes me.
and then its offspring somehow finds its way back.
Yep.
You know, how does that happen?
I know.
I don't get it.
We had quite a discussion about this yesterday.
Yeah, we sure did. But I think that's what happens. I mean, you know, at least I know my own time I've spent gardening, and I work a lot with teaching gardeners and introducing people to gardening. A lot of times you're drawn in by the flowers and just the beauty of it, but the more time you spend out there and you start learning about all the little intricate connections, and it really is that connection with the natural world that just will hold your interest and keep you going forever and ever. And this time of year is such a good demonstration of that.
Yes.
Because like I said, now at the end of the season, these guys they're going to have to fuel up and make it back to Mexico and stuff. So they're out there loading up on the nectar, you know, building up some fat and protein that's in there.
It just amazes me.
Exactly, because a little ways from now, they're going to have a big journey ahead. Stuff. So this is, of course, is the butterfly, but like we talked about, the butterfly emerges from the larval stage, which is the caterpillar. So the caterpillar really feeds on plants that are in the milkweed family. Now, one of the things that's kind of interesting is milkweed is a toxic plant. If you're thinking from a plant's perspective, you know, you're out there, you're in the environment, and you're exposed, and everybody wants to come take a bite out of you.
Right.
You know, so how are you going to defend yourself? You can't run, you can't punch, you can't fight your way back.
True.
So plants, they start developing a lot of times these elaborate chemical defenses. So milkweed, anybody knows, if you cut into it, it bleeds this thick, goopy, latex-like sap that if you're an insect, it's kind of difficult to chew through all that gooey stuff that's coming out of the leaf. It also produces toxins in the leaf. But what's interesting, I think, or fascinating, is there's several insects that have evolved and adapted in conjunction with the plant. So this caterpillar, for example, can somehow still digest the milkweed, and the toxins that are in the milkweed, it accumulates or assimilates into its skin. So now the caterpillar becomes basically toxic, so that when birds that want to come prey on the caterpillar, it's brightly colored, so it's telling the birds, hey, you might want to watch out for me.
That's
I know
right.
it tastes so
I'm
good.
poison.
Exactly. So here the caterpillar, again, it's sort of accumulating the toxins. It's alerting the birds, trying to stay away from me. And it's pretty effective that's out there. And then the next butterfly I want to look at looks very, very similar. Whoops, maybe we skipped one. I really wanted to show my Viceroy butterfly.
Because it's a sneaky one.
Okay, I don't know if that picture made it in there. But the Viceroy looks very, very much, and this is not our Viceroy, but the Viceroy looks very, very much like the monarch butterfly. They're very difficult to tell apart, except the Viceroy is actually a little smaller in size, and you wouldn't notice, but it's got that little black stripe across its hind wings.
We should have done a split screen so you could see the difference in them.
I wanted to, but both pictures are so pretty, I didn't want to forfeit one. So this is what they call, it's a type of mimicry. So what's happened now, the Viceroy, it's a different species. It feeds primarily on plants that are in the willow family and the poplar family. It will accumulate certain compounds and toxins from the willow family, which also give it a bitter taste. But these two butterflies have sort of co-evolved together and mimic each other, and they're so similar in their appearance as a warning to birds that prey on it, saying, hey, if you come grab me, you know, I'm not going to be tasting so delightful, and may even give you an upset stomach. So it's just neat, again, how all this stuff works together. We talked a little bit about moths. Now moths, which we see in our next picture, this is called a hummingbird moth because it's big. I mean, it's a type of sphinx moth. It gets big, it hovers. It looks, sometimes people say, like a bee or a hummingbird, but this is actually a moth. And what happens, its mouth part, you can see it has this long proboscis, this very long tubular mouth part. It is adapted to where it can reach deep inside tubular shaped flowers. And our next picture is actually a type of Nicotiana. Nicotiana, this is a night blooming variety. So as I said, this is adapted specifically to be pollinated by moths. It blooms in the evening. it's fragrant. It releases its scent at night so that these hawk moths or hummingbird moths can find them. And you can see how long that tubular flower is. So its proboscis is long enough to reach all the way to the back of that and grab the nectar from behind.
But look at that guy sneaking in there.
Exactly. So what does the bumblebee do? Well, bees have little short mouth part. So to reach the nectar, it's what we call robbing the flower. It bypasses and cuts a little hole in there and steals or robs nectar out of it. Now this, of course, is a bee that's going towards a more open type of flower. Here this is guara. Guara is open, you know, it's displaying its pollen, inviting the bees to come in and grab the nectar, and there's what's happening. The bee is going in there to get the nectar. He also collects pollen, that pollen ball that you can see him carrying, because they'll return, take that pollen back to their nest, and that will be food for their larvae.
Great.
And it also, of course, this is how the plants reproduce. Now the next one, because I want to show a little bit on the form of different flowers, because we talked about the tubular flowers. This is a composite flower. It's a type of echinacea. Each one of those little individual orange spikes you see is an individual flower. The yellow ring that's around there is the pollen that's being produced, that's out there. So these type of composite flowers, that structure is fantastic for pollinators, because a pollinator can come, they can land on that flower, they can sit on what we call the ray flowers, and all those little florets are compacted together so they can go around and work these flower by flower by flower and gather all the nectar.
Okay, well quickly before we go to break, we've got a couple here.
We do, and a lot of these are the late summer bloomers. And the way I look at a lot of these composite flowers are plants that are an aster family, like you're showing up here. We've got like Helenium, which is that variety that we're calling Mardi Gras because it has those orange and yellow colors in it. The black-eyed Susan, the Rudbeckias, they seem to really hit their peak in late summer as we go into August and September. And to me, a part of that's how all this works. They've been growing through the summer, storing up the energy. They explode into flower towards late summer time period, and then all the pollinators, they're out there, they're busy trying to gather the nectar and the pollen because they've got to get prepared for their overwintering, and it just all fits together in just such a fantastic way.
There you kind of see them in the garden.
Yeah, and they're tough,
look.
durable. Now a lot of times some of these plants can be a little bit taller and leggy, but they lend themselves so nicely to put toward the back of the border, and this is how you start getting that year-round interest in your own landscape.
Summertime look, it's great. Okay, we'll be right back. Have more to share when we return. Okay, hummingbirds. We're going to spend a little time on hummingbirds because they are fascinating. Now, I was telling you yesterday that I've heard from some people that they're not seeing as many in their gardens, but you're having no problem with that.
Well, I told you, I think they're all out at Merrifield Garden Center.
Yep, that's true.
Must be the thing. I don't know what it is. You know, I hear these stories every year, and I don't really know what's going on, other than I can say, I guess, as the population as a whole, you know, on the different pollinators, the butterflies, the bees, as well as hummingbirds, they're under stress, and a lot of this is just loss of habitat. So there's a big push underway for us as gardeners to provide the plants and the flowers, to provide the habitat and the environment so that these populations can survive and hopefully even rebound.
Great. Well, we've got a treat for you because we had a customer come in who's a photographer as well, and he took some fascinating pictures of hummingbirds at our Fair Oaks location, right?
Yes, this was our Fair Oaks.
And so we've got a couple to share with you. So you want to show one of these?
Yes, this was, I always like to give credit where credit's due. This Gary Robinette, like I say, he was taking the pictures and put these on our Facebook, and I asked if I could use them this morning, because I'll tell you the truth, Debbie, I spent 2 days out there trying to get pictures.
Couldn't do it.
And, well, no, I got some pictures, but they just, when I saw these, I was just kind of humbled and realized, well, my pictures.
We'll use these.
Yeah, these are so much better than what I had to offer. And I also think it was neat that he was sharing them on Facebook.
That's right.
And that's it's kind of a fun resource, because we're always putting pictures that we take and things that we spot around the garden center. So it's nice when some of our customers share the same.
Yeah, and he shared on our Facebook account so that everyone could see.
Oh yeah, and if you go and you click the link on his website, then you get to see the complete portfolio.
Right.
I'm only showing a few of them, But this, of course, the hummingbirds are just so fascinating, because they're small. They're the smallest species of birds. Again, they're migratory, so they're here during the summertime, and then they head down to Mexico for the wintertime. And they're such high energy demands. They're constantly on the search for nectar, which they use to meet their immediate needs, but they also feed on little insects to get the protein and build that up. They're active right now, trying to build up for that migration that's ahead. And again, their ability to hover, they can fly vertically, they can go up, they can go down, they can go left, they can go right, and they can even hover here. And again, the neat thing with these flowers, it's a tubular shaped flower, which lends for pollinators that are able to reach back in there, grab the nectar. And the nectar is the reward. Inadvertently, they're collecting some pollen on their beak and their forehead, and they're transferring that around between flowers. So that's the Crocosmia there, red flower in bloom. Again, these were taken this week. They go after a variety of different flowers, but they do tend to favor the red that's in there. This is Salvia. I think this is a variety called Lady in Red. Again, I want to give credit where credit's due. Terry Hirschberger out our store has put together and sort of maintains this display and keeps filling up the hummingbird feeders. Now, I thought this was interesting because you've got the hummingbird in our next picture that's going after a blue salvia, but it's finished blooming. I mean, it's like, I don't know, it's down there, it's sort of check and see if there's any remains left behind, anything left behind. So they are hard at work out there at Merrifield. And if you come by the right time of day, it's not unusual to find half a dozen of them buzzing around.
Great.
Now, we do also put the feeders out. Because having the flowers is absolutely fantastic, and that's a great way to attract them. But putting the feeders out, fills in a lot of the gaps. So this next picture just shows where they're being attracted to hummingbird feeder. Just trying to look, see if that's a he or a she. I think that might be a he going up there on his way to grab the nectar that's out there. So of course, when I say nectar, it's really just a mix of sugar and water that's putting in there. I think Terry's telling me he's doing something like, about 1 part sugar, 1 part water that's in there. Or no, 1 part sugar and about 4 parts water. So this has been one of our favorite hummingbird feeders. We put them out there. There's a lot of different options that are available to you. This little
illusion
feeder
here.
Yeah, that's my hummingbird freeze frame. But this humming feeder that I'm holding, this is one that I had, and it works quite well, and it's probably a little more decorative. But one of the things you'll notice, there's no perch on this one. So the hummingbirds come and they have to hover, and that uses a lot of energy as they're hovering to gather the nectar. So if they're given a choice, the one like Debbie's holding, which actually provides a little perch for them to stand on, is preferred, because their feet on the hummingbird, they don't hop, they don't run along the ground. Those feet are adapted specifically to perch. So this allows them to grab hold, take a rest while he's grabbing the nectar out here. One of the things we're really loving about this feeder is it has the bee guards in there, because the bees, they come by, and the bees, of course, they want the sugar water as well. But by putting this bee guard in here, this little dome, that's blocking and protecting, because again, like we talked about, the bees, they have little short tongues. They can't reach in there, but the hummingbirds that have the long tongues can easily access it from that perch.
That's great.
Now,
there's different types of nectar?
There are. Now, the other thing I want to say real quickly before we go into that, of course, a common thing that comes up is ants will start wanting to get in.
And ants have been prolific this year.
So if you're having trouble with ants, we talked about you put a bee guard in there, keep the bees out, but this is a little ant guard, a little ant moat. So if that is a problem for you, basically you fill this up with water, and as ants try to get down, they get trapped in the water and they're not able to get out of there.
Great idea. Can I do that in my kitchen?
Yeah. I don't know if it would work there. Again, you had mentioned nectar. If you prefer, you don't make your own, you can make your own nectar just with sugar and water.
Right.
But there's also nectar like this that's pre-made.
I love this.
This is
in the
great.
wine bottle.
I know, it's a nice presentation because these hummingbird feeders can be fantastic gifts. It's showing we can get elaborate decorative feeders like this
beautiful.
one. And you can package that with something like the ready. This is a concentrate nectar you mix with water, It makes a nice presentation. It's just a little bit easier rather than having to make your own.
That's great.
So you have all these different options. We've got a whole collection of these different hummingbird feeders and nectars and everything goes with it. The thing that's important is you need to change that nectar. We don't let it go more than 3 days
Gotcha.
before we change it, and we rinse out and clean those feeders about twice a week. Got to keep the nectar fresh, keep them clean, and the
Keep
hummers
them
will
happy.
find it.
That's right. Okay, we've got another segment to go, and then we will run out of time. So come back and see us in just a couple of minutes. Okay, we've given you a lot of information today, a lot of neat ideas, and I love seeing the butterflies and the hummingbirds and that type of thing. If you have any questions, of course, we weren't able to do phone calls today, but come on in the Garden Center anytime. Everybody at the Plant Clinic are just there to help you. So, bring in a sample, bring in your questions, and stop by.
Yeah, we stay pretty busy throughout
Yep.
the whole year.
That's for sure.
Especially now.
Yeah.
But, I was going to try to bring this back sort of to the plants, because we got off talking about the birds
Right.
and the bees and the butterflies, and that is fascinating that's out there. And I thought it was interesting. Months ago, we had Dr. Michael Raup on the
Right.
show, and he was talking about insects being that connection between the plant world and the animal world because of all the different predators that feed on and the way that they make plants available to us. But then I started thinking about, to my mind, of course, being a horticulturist, really, I think plants are what make that connection
That's for sure.
between the earth, between the soil and everything else. I mean, plants through the photosynthesis, producing the oxygen, sequestering the carbon, providing the food and nectar for the insects, so I'm still going back to the plants. This is, again, I just think a beautiful composition of late summer color out at Meadowlark Gardens, Northern Virginia Regional Park Authority. Shows what you can do with the diversity of plants that are out there. And this picture is taken in August. It shows where you can get lots of color. The hyssop that's in there, sort of that tangerine color. Again, there's so many different varieties that are out there, and that's such a fantastic plant for attracting the butterflies and the hummingbirds that are out there. You can see some of the sedges in the foreground, sort of that coppery color. A different use of color, but I thought a nice color. The next picture, again taken from the same garden, I want to put in there because you can see that red fountain grass. Grasses, these warm season grasses that thrive during the summer heat, are starting to come into bloom. That's a whole topic in itself.
Oh, right.
And I'm sure that at some point here before the season's gone, Peggy or myself will be talking to you about it. But here you can see, I think, is a Japanese bloodgrass in the foreground. It's a warm season grass. They love the heat. They love the summer. The fountain grass going into full bloom, combined with the elfin ears, the colocasia in the background there, that loves the heat. Just needs a little moisture, and we've had that. So all these things start coming together. And of course, I just mentioned the hyssop, which is the flowering perennial, which is such a great plant for attracting these pollinators that are in there. Swallowtail there being our native. Another great plant there for summer color that you need to be planting, that's in bloom right now, is going to be the cardinal flower. Cardinal flower, you can see where it gets its name because it's just that striking red color.
Yes, absolutely.
That's a type of lobelia, and again, it will provide attraction for the pollinators, everything from hummingbirds to the butterflies. Now, this is naturally kind of a bog plant. It does best in kind of that stream valley environment. So again, depending on the situation you're in, again, they flower sort of July, August. There's also blue colored ones, but if you're in a wet, poorly drained area, dense soil, that's definitely one that you can use. So whatever your environment, I guess is where I'm going to, there's ways that you can add the beauty and interest of plants and flowers to it. It doesn't have to be just in the ground. We can talk about container gardens. Again, this I just thought was a beautiful example.
That's
these are
striking. Look at that.
Of course, these are the big ones that are lined with the cocoa moss that's out there, the large baskets, which allow you to do more with it. But you've taken some of the plants we looked at, that red fountain grass that's in there. I know Peggy's always talking about the dichondra that's cascading down, giving you that gray coloration that's in there. But there's also plants like Queen Anne's lace and yarrow that's in there providing the white. There's some petunias in the white. I know you can't see these in detail, that's what I'm saying. But those are providing great attraction for all the pollinators,
Right.
as well as fitting the color scheme that's in there. So this is the thing. I don't care what the environment is. You come in and talk to us, and we've got
We'll find
great
something for you.
salespeople that can tell you how to adapt and work plants that fit that environment. Again, we talked a little bit about the tropical plants. Tropicals like this, you know, begonias, we sell them as annuals, but they're technically a tropical. Ginger, the sweet potato vine, that great elfin ears, and all the varieties that are out there. It's always there. And then sort of last but not least, hey, you're looking for an innovative, different way you can add color to the garden? I don't know if this one's for me, but here, coming up, I'm going to show you.
This is kind of interesting. The next picture. I don't know about that.
The flower is Liatris, which is kind of a pink magenta bloom, but somebody got creative, go out there with a couple cans of spray paint. After they've hit their peak bloom, go out there, pick your color
Oh,
scheme.
that's true.
And there you got color going well into the end
go.
of summer.
All right. Well, the hour has flown by, and we hope we've given you some great ideas, because there's so much color out there this time of year, and it's a wonderful world out there of plants. Next week, you're going to be here, and we're going to be talking about growing cool season vegetables, because it's getting to be that time.
Oh yeah, we want to get started on that.
That's right. Hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.